LinkedIn Live. Yes. Second time lucky. We've made it. I'm Claire Forestier. I'm going to be the host at the Global Workforce Innovation Summit. Had a brain fart there and forgot who I was talking about. And I'm with David Beeney, who is going to be one of the speakers at GWIS, as we are calling its shortened name. And he is a counsellor, mental health consultant, and obviously also lots of experience in the corporate world. And he will be running a session on day one of GWIS, which is all about managing your mental resilience during challenging times. So I'm going to be asking David a little bit about that. Hopefully whet your appetite on what we're going to be doing at GWIS. And obviously any questions for David, please put them in the chat. If you're not watching live, we will still come back and check the chat and answer your questions. So don't worry about that. So welcome to you, David. And my first question for you really is, everybody talking about mental health at work. It's great, but it's obviously not enough because you're running this workshop. What's still going wrong? What's missing?
I'll tell you what sums up in some ways, Claire. We've got in May National Mental Health Awareness Week, and we've been having National Mental Health Awareness Week now for many, many years.
Yeah.
We need to scrap it. We need to have Mental Health Action Week because there's still too many people talking the talk but not walking the walk. Too many businesses are still ticking a box when it comes to really creating cultures in their workplaces where all staff can be really honest about their mental health. There's been some really great work taking place in recent years, and some companies are getting it so right. But there's many where it still feels tick box, and there's so much more work to be done. Many businesses still complicate this subject. They're not investing in the right areas, and they're not delivering the right sort of training to their managers on what it looks like to create a kinder culture. Thank you, Claire.
That's interesting because it's kinder culture you use there, which is what it's all about. Because as you say, there's no point in saying, oh yeah, the rules are now if someone's got a mental health issue, you have to do A, B, and C, which is almost just reacting to the symptoms or reacting to them when they say it. It's actually, there's an awful lot you could do to make sure it never even happens. I mean, obviously what happens outside of work is one thing, but you could reduce the opportunities for people to develop any mental health issue around their workplace. And then it's not that, because it feels like, as you say, you're just fixing a symptom.
Too many companies, they overly invest in resource without addressing their culture. So, for example, I've done some work with the military in the past, and in the military, you won't be surprised to know we've got world-class resource available. But unless you get the culture right, where people feel safe to put their hand up and say, I'm struggling, that resource will never get used. So we need to invest in culture. And where culture comes from primarily is leadership and your direct line manager. I mean, it's been proven that your line manager has as much influence on your mental health as your main partner in life.
Yeah.
But there's still not enough of the right sort of training taking place to really have an impact and change cultures to becoming kinder. And too many organizations, Claire, still see, when I say things like a kinder culture, they think it's fluffy. It's not fluffy. You only get the best out of your people when you get a kind culture where people feel valued and cared for, because when you get the culture right, less people go off sick, less people leave, and you drive greater energy through the organization. So, yeah.
Well, that's exactly it, because people don't leave a job normally, do they? They leave a manager. That's what it's all about. And I do recognise very much what you say. I'm a military brat, and my husband was in the forces, so I do understand that. I mean, but it's also the case in many businesses. You said there that people think it's fluffy when you say kinder, because obviously we want to be able, because it's business, to measure and to understand and to actually say this is what kinder is. Like you can actually see it tangibly, measure it. So how do we go about that? And I guess you'll talk about that a lot at GWIS, but if for anyone listening is thinking, yeah, I want a kinder culture, where do you start?
There's some businesses out there making
training.
There's a lot of businesses out there making a lot of money now by trying to show that there's ways to accurately measure it. I think it's so difficult to measure it because the cynics will always say that wasn't down to that bit of training, that was down to this or that, whatever. And they'll remain cynical. You know when you've got a kinder culture. Without doubt, one of the best metrics is staff churn, because as we both alluded to already, that if you don't get on with your manager, you're likely to leave. If you don't feel respected by the organization, you're very likely to leave. So I think staff churn is a good metric. But one of the most powerful insights I share, Claire, and I won't name the organization today, but they're a global bank who have a great reputation for well-being. They did a survey of thousands of staff, and they asked them lots of questions, but one question was very black and white, and it simply said, do we care about you, yes or no? And they thought most people would say yes. Well, guess what? 50% of their workforce said no. And when they drilled into the data, they found the common denominator. Won't surprise you, it was your line manager. And then they drilled further into the data to see those managers who create this impression that they don't care about you, what is it they're doing? And what came out was really simple stuff again. And the main thing was that whenever those managers started a work conversation, whether a one-to-one or a team meeting, all they ever talked about was work. They never started a meeting by saying, look, I know we're busy, but how are you? How are you doing? And asking from here and being prepared to listen. So simple things like starting work conversations by not always talking about work is one very simple way to make people feel that you care about them genuinely.
We want to feel heard. It's such a human emotion to be listened to and to be someone actually gives a mark. It's like with that very British thing, we always go, hi, how are you? Nobody's really listening to the negative. It's just become a polite thing to say. It's really important to hear it.
Claire, it's funny you should say that, because as you say, outside the UK, people find it funny that in the UK, we walk into a room and say, hi, how are you? But we don't really mean it. It's our way of saying hello. So again, a very simple thing to do if you really want to know how someone is to say to someone, how are you? And they say, yeah, I'm fine. But then look them in the eyes, smile and say, are you really? Yeah. Because when you ask that second time, invariably, they give you a more honest response. I'll give you one very quick example of that. A guy came in to see me. I said, hi, how are you? And he said, yeah. He said, I'm good. He said, it was my birthday yesterday. And he sat down and I said, how are you really? And he went very quiet on me and he said, it's actually been a really difficult couple of days because my brother died on my birthday last year. And he said, but thank you for asking. If I hadn't have asked him twice, I'd never have known that he was actually having quite a difficult period in his life. So it's simple things that we can do, that we can train out in the workplace that make a huge difference. It's not all about getting a huge team of mental health first aiders. It's not about getting the mental health charities in to talk more about mental health. It's about training your managers in many cases to be better at asking people how they are at the start of a meeting and to ask people twice. Simple things can make such a huge difference in workplace culture.
It is so interesting when you say that, because actually when people ask you how you are, it's almost sometimes a little bit triggering, because if you aren't great, you sort of know your thing is, oh, well, I can't say, I'll just have to go, yeah, I'm fine. And you rush over the subject because it's uncomfortable. So which means that at some point, no one has asked you that day. And so if someone at work asks you and cares, very interesting. Well, I guess my thing to you is you are day one of GWIS. We start with you, which is brilliant, because we're going right into this. It is a thorny issue. On day one, but we're doing it in a workshop format, so it's going to have a lot of personal resonance for people as well. It's not just turn up and learn how to go home back to your office place and sort this out. It's like really getting us right into it straight away. And also one of the things we're doing at GWIS is trying to be very collaborative, really being a way for people to talk and be heard. It's just the perfect way to start it. So obviously I think it's brilliant, but I want to hear from you. Why should somebody come to this? Why don't turn up late? Why is it important to be there for day one?
I'm going to take people on a journey, and what that journey looks like is I had a big secret for 36 years in my corporate career, a huge secret that not even my ex-wife of 28 years knew, and that was suffering with my mental health. And so I'm going to share my own story of having a pretty good career, but how I suffered in silence with mental health and what that looks like. I'm then going to move into how we can all become more resilient to cope with tough times, because the first person we need to look after in life is ourselves. There's no one more important to love than us. And I'm going to talk about the importance of being kinder to yourself, being more self-compassionate, and how that's largely won my battle with panic attacks. And then I'm going to move into how we help each other, how we can support our friends, our family, our workplace colleagues, and create environments where people feel they can be honest about their mental well-being. And when they do speak up about it and share that they're struggling, what we should do. Now, you said just now, Claire, that too many people in the workplace, that they worry that they don't have the confidence to have mental health conversations, and they fall into two camps. One camp is I'm not going to ask anyone how they are because I don't feel qualified to deal with the answer.
Yeah.
And the second one is we put ourselves under pressure to fix people. Well, your jobs in the workplace is not to fix people. That's for people like me who are counselors. It's all about creating relationships where we feel we can talk to each other and trust each other. It's about really listening. And then it's about signposting people to get professional help, but staying on that journey, making sure they're talking to the right people and not trying to fix them yourselves. And when we can help people in the workplace realize that you don't need to be qualified, you don't need to fix people. Your jobs are far simpler than that. It's about relationships of trust and listening and signposting. You give people a lot more confidence in the workplace to have proper conversations on this topic. So I can't wait. I've been given 2 hours on day one.
You know, it's great.
We're going to make it very interactive, and we're going to have a lot of fun too. Bear in mind, it's quite a heavy topic, but equally there's going to be some really powerful but simple messages in that session. So don't be late. Get off to this conference because it's going to be a really special session. And
well, that is exactly it. And everybody who wants to sign up, that's what we want you to do right now. There is a special discounted link, which we're putting in the chat, which is all thanks to David, really. It's David's special link. I like to say it's mine, but it's David's. And if you use that, I think you've got a couple of days before that runs out. So I'm not sure of the exact time, but make sure that you do jump on that link. Anything else you want to add, David?
I'm really looking forward to being at GWIS. When I finish my session on day one, I'm not going to rush off straight away. So if anybody does want to talk to me on a one-to-one basis because you'd rather speak to me in private about mental health, I understand that. I will make myself available. And hopefully I'm going to be there on day 3 as well, maybe with you in the afternoon, Claire, having a bit of another chat as well, wrapping up, part of the wrap up of the conference. So no, I'm really excited. If you haven't got your tickets yet, please do, because it's going to be a GWIS event in every spirit and sense of the word.
That is so true. And I think this is something that is going to be an awful lot of value for your jobs, but also a huge amount of personal value from attending GWIS. And literally everybody I have spoken to in the run-up, any one of the contributors, every single person that I'm talking to has got such an amazing session. So it's going to be worth your time and energy to come to GWIS. So check out the link, everybody. Don't be late. Super important, says Esther. Absolutely. Thank you very much for your comments. If you didn't watch this live, you can still comment and David can come in and check. So any questions, do put them in and book your slot for this extraordinary 3-day event, 22nd of May to the 24th in London, Canary Wharf. Thank you so much, David.
Thank you, Claire. It'd be great to chat to you again today. See you, everyone.
Bye-bye.